Hello, everyone listening to the We Are Gamers podcast. This is Lawrence, once again, bringing you the introduction to the podcast. Justin couldn't make it today because of a late day at work, and Michelle is also having a late night herself, so we like to wish them both well and hope to see them again in the future. But for right now, it's just me and Rident, so...
Hey guys.
All right, so today on the We Are Gamers podcast, first I want to say thank you all for listening to our Dynasty Warriors 8 announcement 2 weeks ago. We appreciate you all for checking out the video and for commenting and talking about it and spreading the word about the Dynasty Warriors 8 localization. And I just wanted to put it out there that from all of us at the We Are Gamers podcast, thank you for your support.
Yeah, and also for checking out some of our other videos because we've had a lot more activity in those as well. I've seen a lot more comments and stuff being posted in some of our other videos that we've put out, which is pretty cool.
Right, and we also want to thank especially Tecmo Koei and Chin for giving us the opportunity and the privilege of announcing the Dynasty Warriors 8 localization. So, from all of us at the We Are Gamers podcast, thank you as well, Tecmo Koei and Chin. Now, let's see. First thing we got to talk about. Nintendo recently had a Nintendo Direct conference that was focused pretty much on 3DS announcements. And I just wanted to get, your thoughts on some of the stuff. I mean, I don't know, do you have a Nintendo console, Raiden, or 3DS?
No, I don't. But this is kind of it's kind of a good kind of a good thing in a way because some of these announcements are quite enticing to actually invest in one, especially where now the price of the consoles have gone down. There is the XL versions available,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean the fact that they actually put out that Nintendo Direct and focused it all on, like pretty much all on the 3DS console, and the fact that they've got a lot of announcements, a lot of known franchises and stuff coming back onto that console, onto the little handheld,
Right.
and it's ideal, especially like the console's perfect for traveling and stuff like that.
Yeah, it really is kind of what's called tailor-made for that type of thing, where you could kind of travel with it, and obviously you could play while you're going. But also the
Yeah,
games on the 3DS are tailor-made also for a longer experience for a handheld title. Like
yeah,
obviously you have the Pokemon games, but you also have the different RPGs and different titles like that are coming out on the 3DS, as well as like they announced in the Nintendo Direct conference. They have the Animal Crossing 3DS XL bundle that is making its way to North America and Europe. So,
which kind of does look pretty cool.
yeah.
Maybe a little wallpapery for me, but I quite like I quite like the that Pikachu one that they released a little while back. I think that one's better.
Yeah, the Pokemon designs always kind of popped more to me for some reason. Like they always kind of had like more of an appeal in that regard.
Mm.
I mean, it could be because I'm more familiar with Pokemon than Animal Crossing.
Yes, see, I wasn't really a Pokemon player. I was I would like to say I was kind of out of the generation really. Um, while everyone was playing their Pokemon games, there I was just always watched on my PlayStation or can't remember what handheld I was using, what handheld games that console I was using at the time. But I would always play, you know, kind of a little more mature games. I kind of saw them as a bit of a kids thing, really. In that, as I was kind of in that 16 bracket or whatever, when you don't want to do anything that's too immature or whatever.
Okay. Rule number one: you can never outgrow Pokemon.
You see, now I can see that. Then it, it was, if I grew up with it, then it would have been very different. But um, I didn't. So
Okay, that's fair enough. I picked up on Pokemon back when it first came out in like 1990. I want to say like 96, 97. It had to have been because I picked up of it for Red and Blue, and then I got Yellow when I saw it had you starting with the Pikachu, which was something I always liked that you could do in Pokemon Yellow, and then I just followed it from there. And I pretty much have every Pokemon title for the handhelds, or excuse me, every main Pokemon title. I have to say it like that because I forgot the spin-offs. But I have every main Pokemon title now for that. So, and now October, the next Pokemon title is coming out worldwide instead of it being like a scattered release like it usually did with Japan getting it first in America and stuff like that. Now worldwide October release for Pokemon X and Y. So it really does look like the 3DS is going to pick up steam, especially with all the new announcements from their Direct conference.
Well, and I think because the Animal Crossing that's got high expectations for doing well, and they did say that they reckon that this year the 3DS console is going to have a complete new leash of life, and they expect it to do well, which based on what they've shown, I can probably see that. I mean, obviously, I couldn't say so much, quite the same for Sony, who's I believe is still kind of struggling on the Vita, even though they have got some really cool titles like the Persona 4,
Yeah.
which was a fantastic title. I think it helps sell a few of the handheld consoles, but I don't think it's really had that big an impact, and it hasn't in Japan either.
Yeah, I think the Vita had a boon in sales in Japan when the Vita's price got slashed.
Yeah,
And then it went from selling maybe, if the numbers were accurate, about from 10,000 to upwards of 60,000 the next week. So I think what really seems like the Vita needs to maybe take a price cut and see where that goes with them in the other regions. Because
okay, we're talking about this, and here I can see a tweet on my screen, and it says, "Persona 4 Golden has ruined everything else on the PS Vita for me."
that's Persona for you. Persona
Yeah,
just reels you in and then just keeps you on with that whole journey. But it's a see that's the thing. It needs more games like Persona.
yeah,
I mean, looking at the Nintendo Direct conference, just off of what was announced for Nintendo Direct, you have the Mario and Luigi Dream Team title. You have the Bravely Default Flying Fairy announcement for localization. Professor Layton and the Azran Legacy. You have Yoshi's Island. You have Mario Party. You have, which was the shocker to me, a Zelda game set in the universe of A Link to the Past. You have all these different killer titles from Nintendo, but the Vita doesn't have enough of those. I mean, they have Gravity Rush, they have Persona 4,
yeah,
but that's around where it stops. It's
yeah. They're kind of all a little too niche. They don't they're not games that appeal to everyone. So someone who would buy one popular title probably won't buy the other popular title, and whereas with the Nintendo, they kind of come in almost bundled together. The franchises are not too dissimilar, so they work together.
mm-hmm. Because the one thing also with the Vita is like we said, it's a great handheld. It just needs the support,
Hmm.
and it doesn't have enough of that support. Whereas the 3DS has this whole conference dedicated to 3DS titles.
See what they need on the Vita is Crash Bandicoot.
That would move units. That would move units.
I
People,
mean, if they announce a new Crash Bandicoot for the Vita, I mean that would be really really cool.
oh yeah, people have wanted a new Crash Bandicoot for a while,
Yeah,
and
when I was looking at the digital sales from the PSN store, Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3 were in the top sellers. So and how old are they?
yeah, about maybe 15 years worth by that point. Crash Bandicoot in terms of age.
Yeah, yeah. So bring something like that to the console.
Yeah, if you bring something like that to the Vita, something new, and something that looks good for Crash Bandicoot, and bring that over. I mean, Sony kind of did a good move with the what was the initiative they started? The crossplay, where you buy a
Yes.
PS3 version and you get the PS Vita version for free.
Yep.
That was a good move with
It's a
game.
good feature.
Mm-hmm. Like with especially with Sly Cooper and PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale being the things that started to push that.
Yeah. And now Dead or Alive 5, which is I think one of the latest ones. But again, there's not really because they don't. There's not too many shared titles. Um,
No,
there's not too many people that will go out and buy a Vita and adopt it.
no, that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, the like I said, the price cut worked for the first week in Japan, and it stayed steady for a little bit with at least a decent sales hike. But
Yeah.
then it dropped back down to normal, which I don't know if they want to risk that, where all of a sudden it just drops right back down to the normality of this many units being sold. But
Well, at least it hasn't gone down to Xbox 360 normal in Japan.
no, nothing will ever reach Xbox 360 normal in Japan. There's something to be said when a console only sells 300 units a week in Japan.
I don't know. I'm sure there was weeks where they sold 10.
Okay, I would need to see those because that I find hard to believe, even for Microsoft in Japan. I find
Well,
10.
I think the biggest problem is the fact that no stores are actually stocking them.
Right.
So people don't have access to buy them in the first place,
Yeah.
even if if they really wanted. And as what's his name said not too long ago in an interview, Japan only like in Japanese culture they only support things which were made in their country. So when they have a choice between something that was developed in Japan and something that was developed outside of Japan, they'll always buy the thing that's developed in Japan.
Right.
They only really like to support their home products and not anything outsourced, not anything from the outside, imported into the country or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of makes sense.
Which is why a lot of the when we've discussed it, God knows how many times before, the fact that a lot of Japanese companies they stick a lot of their games only on the PlayStation 3 because that's where their target audience is.
Right, and that's the console that's going to sell in obviously Japan.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing that Nintendo said that I'm curious to hear what you think about though is alongside this whole mass conference with A Link to the Past being getting a sequel, Oracle of Ages and Seasons getting re-released
Hmm.
on the eShop and all that. Nintendo had a little bit of an interview where one of the I think the director of their product marketing mentioned that one of the reasons they tend to go back to franchises is they get a new gameplay mechanic or gameplay element and they put it on one of their existing franchises to
Yeah.
try to appeal to a wide range of people.
Well, people know the characters. They've already invested in those characters and the worlds and the concepts and stuff. So I guess it's easy for them to jump into.
Right, I can kind of see that, but wouldn't it also be more suited to maybe expand it with like a new IP or try to make a new character that goes with this new concept instead of like for A Link to the Past, one of the features they have is that Link can actually morph himself into paper and move against walls in the new 3DS title. And it's kind
Hmm.
of like this doesn't really match with Zelda to me in
Yeah.
regards to how Link functions because Link had its cartoony elements in Zelda, but it didn't go outright, let's morph Link into paper and move him through a wall.
Well, you know what? This works. This all works perfectly with I think with a handheld console. Familiar IPs. Um, I think they work. They work really well with handheld consoles and stuff. But it's things like the Wii U that could do with some new IP, some decently developed new IPs, new action titles and things like that, which appeal to people to buy that console.
Hmm.
When people want that, when people get the home console, I guess that's kind of, they want that bigger experience. They want more choice on a handheld, I think, um, because a lot of people don't always just sit at home with their handheld console. Some do, but they're usually ideal for things like traveling or lunch hours and things like that. Whereas you kind of get home, you want to get out your bigger console. You kind of want something a bit more involved to play with, and
Hmm.
when there's products which I won't say that they don't always offer a good story, because Zelda games do offer good storylines and things like that, but a Zelda title will be a massive story, and people don't always just want RPGs. So when they get stories, they always get RPGs. So I'm sure people want, like they get on these consoles, where they can have reasonably short stories through things like first-person shooters and whatever,
Right.
um, and not have to get so invested in playing a massive game that they might not ever finish.
Right. I can understand that. I could see that. It's just it seems like to me with that type of mindset of, take this new gameplay element and then, put it on this established franchise. It just seems like Nintendo's kind of
Hmm.
hamstringing themselves a little. That instead of taking the risk and making a new IP or a new character where this new gameplay element could fit that character,
Hmm.
they instead stick it to something that's already known, and then you get them making more Mario titles like a Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, Mario Strikers, Mario Kart, and that type of thing instead of trying something new with it.
Mario, absolutely everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my worry. I mean, the Link to the Past thing, I know this is going to sound backwards to my argument, but the turning Link into paper and having him shimmy through walls seems like it would fit a Paper Mario style title than Legend of Zelda. But like I said, this sounds backwards because I'm just telling them not to do that. But it just seems like they're just sticking things onto, okay, what can we do with this character? Oh, we have this gameplay element sitting around. Let's put it on this and say it's new. That type of adage that I think is gonna wind up hurting Nintendo in the long run if they don't try to actually expand and make something new.
Yeah. I don't know. I think in a way they probably do recycle their franchise a little too much. And like you said, they are known for not wanting to take risks.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know. To me, you have to at least take some risks,
Hmm.
or else you wind up getting, as some people joke, the reputation of Nintendo being the Mario console. The only thing they can do is Mario. So that it becomes a little bit of a good thing because Mario is not to say it's a bad product,
No.
but it also becomes a little bit of a downside because people don't look past you being a Mario title.
Well, unfortunately, right now that is how they're seen.
Yes.
And if you go back into back into the days of like the GameCube and stuff like that, they had some good strong franchises jumping in. It's things like Capcom with their Resident Evil series. Um, go back a bit further, you had the GameCube, and they had games like GoldenEye. They were invested in trying some new styles of titles and things like that, which had a much broader appeal, and
Hmm.
they weren't just a Mario console. When people say Nintendo 64, more people would probably would talk about GoldenEye or something like that than they would about Mario 64.
Right. Right.
But now you're in these generations of consoles. When someone mentions the Wii, what do people talk about? Wii Sports? The
Yeah.
whatever the Mario game on the Wii. What else have we got? Mario Kart.
Yeah.
it's, it's
See?
nothing really exciting or anything that stands out.
Yeah.
And there are there were some good titles on the console, but they're not games that stand out to people's minds, and so therefore they don't really sell it.
Yeah. Which I also feel is haunting the Wii U right now
Yeah,
with its poor sales figures. They just don't have killer apps, so to speak, for the Wii U that aren't Mario and aren't the same old so to speak.
one of my biggest issues with the Wii U is how much they use that U on everything.
Yeah, yeah,
They just use a title that they've already got and just stick a U at the end of it, and it's something new.
yeah. I was talking.
When they first announced something, it was kind of okay, but now it's pushing it too much.
Yeah, I was talking to someone about that earlier, and I was kind of laughing at it too, especially since Nintendo's always had this issue. With the Super Nintendo, it was Super Metroid, Super Mario Kart, you know,
Super Mario,
uh, yeah,
Super Mario Brothers.
yeah, that sort of thing.
Well,
All
it was
those,
always Super Mario Brothers,
yeah,
but Super Mario Brothers World, wasn't it?
yeah, that type of thing. It was just add a super in the front of everything.
Yeah.
Nintendo 64.
64, they just 64'd everything.
Yeah, Super Mario 64, Kirby 64, Pilot Wing 64.
Yeah.
That type of thing. The 3DS kind of has a similar thing. Star Fox 64
Yeah.
3DS.
Yeah.
They Star Fox got both naming conventions. They got Star Fox 64 3DS.
No, if they don't stick 3DS at the end, they'll call it 3D. They can't not leave the 3D out.
Yeah, basically. Uh, and Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3DS or 3D. That type
Yeah.
of thing. Nintendo's always been somewhat lazy when it comes to naming conventions. Mario Party, maybe.
I just find that the U this current one, the U is probably the worst of them.
Zombie U.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. Zombie U, New Super Mario Brothers U, New
Yeah.
Super Luigi Brothers U.
Yeah. I think because maybe it's a letter as opposed to numbers, it kind of it just
Yeah,
doesn't have that same thing to it.
yeah, they're just adding a U at the end of everything, and I mean at least with when they did the Arkham City port, it was Batman Arkham City Armored Edition.
Armored Edition, yeah.
That was
But
something.
but I guess that's that wasn't Nintendo's doing as such.
Well, yeah, but even then, Ubisoft has Zombie U.
Yeah, that's just maybe they just couldn't think of a title. They just saw whatever Nintendo was putting. Yeah, look, it's got zombies. Let's just stick a U at the end of it. That'll do. It'll sell.
Yeah, that had to have been it. Just stick a U in the title somewhere.
I think one of when the Nintendo, because I didn't actually watch the Nintendo conference when it was being shown, but one of the things that I saw being tweeted during the show was people were fascinated and baffled by the fact that Nintendo were talking about DLC because it's not a Nintendo thing.
Hmm. Yeah, the new.
When they were talking about DLC for this new Super Mario Brothers U was for the Luigi
Yeah,
uh,
the new Super
thing.
Luigi DLC.
Yeah.
Even their DLC is
Are
named
you not?
U.
Are you sure it's not new Super Luigi U DLC?
It is. It's new Super Luigi U DLC. I'm not kidding you. They named their DLC with a U.
Ah, Nintendo.
New Super Luigi U DLC. We Party, you. We Fit, you. New
Yeah.
DLC, New Super Luigi, you.
Yeah.
Nintendo needs better marketing.
Yeah.
Oh man. But
Maybe it worked in Japan.
maybe, I don't know. But yeah, they have the new Super Luigi U DLC for the new Super Mario Brothers U due out in the summer.
Maybe this is where Sony's going wrong. Maybe they need to stick Vita at the end of everything. It'd be cool. Or V.
Gravity Rush V, Persona 4 Golden V.
Yeah. There we go. Sell.
There you go. Ninja Gaiden Sigma Plus V.
Yeah.
Dynasty Warriors Next V. Just throw a V or a Vita at the end of everything and they're
Do you know all of that? I'm sold.
Oh man.
Although one game that probably that will entice me to maybe buy is that the one that's being released in Japan that I was discussing with you before this that is it Toykudon?
Yeah.
That looks pretty badass.
Yeah.
It would look even better on a big console, but for what it is, it's looking pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm really liking how it looks so far. The character designs and everything look actually pretty cool.
Yeah, and because when they've been showing it off, they've been showing off the Vita screens, and obviously the Vita's got the HD screen, so the imagery, the graphics in the game are just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, quite worthy of having a big console upgrade.
Yeah, I would like it to get a console upgrade, maybe in the vein of what they did with Strike Force.
I mean, because that'll work brilliantly as a co-op game,
Oh yeah.
even if it was just two player.
Yeah, definitely. Although I think it might have multiplayer mode already for the Vita. I
Okay.
think.
I mean, I've as much that because not everything makes sense. So when I've been posting up the stuff on our Facebook page and that, it's been a case of trying to translate, but not every. It's difficult to translate because you get so many misinterpretations of words and sentences that it's no point actually trying to rewrite it because it just looks stupid.
I get you. Yeah.
If I don't know what it means 100%, I won't bother posting it.
If you can if Google Translate doesn't help, then
Yeah.
yeah, no. But yeah, it really does look cool seeing the screenshots and seeing it start to develop in regards to its look and everything. I really
Yeah.
do like it. I am looking forward to seeing how it comes out and hopefully a Western side release.
Yeah.
I mean, if they can't do it on the PSP, at least do it on the Vita.
Yeah, I would if they were to release it in the West, I doubt they would put any focus on the PSP version at all. Um, I think over here, although probably more people own a PSP than they do a Vita, but sales wise, I think Vita would be the better option.
Yeah, obviously because the PSP is kind of floundering,
Yeah,
if not
I
already
mean,
floundered and dead.
in Japan it still sells,
Hmm.
well enough
But
for them to bother developing for the thing.
yeah, but Western side, it's kind of
Yeah,
yeah. So well, we'll see what goes on in the handheld wars in the future in regards to 3DS and how the Vita is doing.
yeah,
And obviously with this new conference of 3DS stuff, it makes you wonder, if the Vita is going to have anything to counter, especially with their lack
yeah.
of advertisement lately.
Well, I mean, the thing is, where Sony have announced the PS4, their next conferences will likely be very PS4 focused. So therefore, I think the Vita will get shunned again, like it did last year at E3.
Yeah, although it could work in conjunction if obviously the PS4 games, if that feature of it working on the Vita holds
Hmm.
through, then I could see them throwing more support at the Vita as well to give more of a reason for people to own the Vita along with the PS4.
Yeah, because they have talked about the fact that they're likely to, they'll be working together, the two the Vita and the PS4. So
Mm-hmm. Right.
it'll be interesting. Be interesting to see what they do going forward.
Right. Right. And speaking of companies, that'd be interesting to see how things are going forward. You've heard the recent news about Capcom?
Um, yeah, I did see about something about they underperformed on a lot of their Western titles.
To an extent, from what I'm reading, with that's more along the lines of Square Enix with their Western titles, outright underperforming according to them. With kind of both of them have the same issue going on at the moment, like they don't know what they're doing in regards to their Western side of development.
Hmm.
For Capcom, they revealed that they incurred heavy losses. It seems like this year, I think a profit loss of half. Um, and they, as a result, they lowered their forecast for the new DMC from Ninja Theory once again from 2 million to 1.2 million to now the broadcast is 1.15 million as their projected broadcast. And the three reasons that they said that they may have suffered these losses were a delayed response to the expansion of digital content markets, insufficient coordination between marketing and the game development divisions in the overseas markets, and the big one that a lot of people are pointing fingers at is decline in quality due to excessive outsourcing. Now, obviously, the two big things they outsourced of recent memory were Resident Evil, Operation Raccoon City, and DMC Devil May Cry. So, part of their solution and their countermeasures have been to bring back more of the work internally. Now, obviously, this can be
Which
hit or
I'm
miss.
which I'm now gonna get a lot of hate for this, but I actually preferred Operation Raccoon City to Resident Evil 6.
Ooh, yeah, that's an unpopular opinion, but I've heard people like Raccoon City as well for what it did.
Yeah, and the thing is, with Operation Raccoon City, you weren't expecting it to be a Resident Evil game,
Mm-hmm.
but set in a Resident Evil universe, and it did what it said. There were there were some issues with uh, glitches and a few graphical issues or whatever, but overall, I thought I found the experience of Operation Raccoon City to be more fun than I have Resident Evil 6, and Resident Evil 6 I haven't even bothered finishing yet.
Wow. Well, there you go.
So I played Operation Raccoon City a couple of times,
Hmm.
and Resident Evil 6 I haven't even bothered finishing. I haven't even finished one person's campaign yet. I've done a bit of each of them and just haven't had the urge to try to get back into it.
Right. For me, I've seen Raccoon City through YouTube videos and stuff like that,
Hmm.
and I watched my brother play Resident Evil 6 straight through. And to be honest, I didn't see Operation Raccoon City as looking bad. It just didn't seem to meet people's expectations, which people expected a Resident Evil, obviously, style title. But it's
I
made by
think I
the
think
guys at
that's
SOCOM.
I think that was the problem. I think too many people were expecting a Resident Evil game.
When it
Um,
wasn't.
yeah, and that was kind of being made obvious the whole time during the development cycle and during the marketing and everything else. The fact that it was something different. It was meant to be team based, and there was a lot more online focused and things like that. But people didn't quite get that,
Right, right.
and it patched up so many cool bits between the stories in Resident Evil 2 and 3.
Okay.
You kind of walk through this walk through the same streets, you get the same some of the same cutscenes but from maybe a different slightly different perspective as what they were in Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, and you see it all kind of coming together.
Yeah, I see what you mean. for me with Resident Evil is just when I looked at what's it called? Resident Evil 6 seemed like they were trying to tie things up with the Resident Evil story.
Hmm.
And obviously there were reports and rumors of them maybe doing a reboot of Resident Evil, after this recent Resident Evil 6 due to sales and try to revitalize the series. But
Yeah.
one of the things that I will say that I noticed was maybe they could have tried the reboot at Resident Evil 5 if they wanted to. But after seeing Resident Evil 6 straight through, it tied up the story, uh, excuse me, the pieces of the story from Resident Evil 1 and 2 and 3 a little bit more than I expected they were going to. And they linked it all the way back to part
I,
1 and 2 and went from there.
yeah, I think the way, because they had split it into those three teams, they were able to kind of tackle on different areas that had been covered in previous games, and then kind of gel it all together. But like I said, I mean, I haven't finished the story, so I don't really see how it fully pans out. But I mean, that's how I've been, when sort of doing the Leon bits, which are in Raccoon City, and then you got, is it Chris who was out? It was his part was like, I'm trying to think where he was actually located. I remember Jake was Jake and that were in somewhere in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
which ties in with the game with Leon, the film with Leon. Is it Damnation?
I think so, yeah. I do believe so.
It kind of ties in similarly to that.
Yeah, Jake was there. I believe
I can't remember where
Chris
Chris was.
Chris was in China
Right.
for I think at least an early portion of it. I don't
Yeah,
remember
I
how
got.
far out he goes in Resident Evil 6, but I remember he at least starts in China at the very minimum.
I mean, I've probably done more of Leon's story than I have anyone else's, but maybe because I like I think maybe I like the actual zombies, the kind of more classic zombie style than what I saw in Resident Evil 5, which kind of then is similar to what you get in Resident Evil 6 for the other two people's campaigns.
Yeah.
Um, Resident Evil 4 obviously had a similar kind of thing where they weren't quite zombies; they were infected, quite human uh, enemies. But that game did it very well. And Resident Evil 4 was really really fun to play.
Yeah, Resident Evil 4. I think Resident Evil 4 may suffer from time because if I were to play Resident Evil 4 now, it does seem backwards with the advancements made in RE6 and even to a degree Dead Space. But at its time, RE4 was pretty much perfect in that regard.
Well, I mean, I found myself. I think I played through Resident Evil 4 HD uh, 3 times now. Since it, so again, it kind of shows that um, you know I just don't have the same. Resident Evil 5 I found hard to stick to as well, but that
Yeah.
was more of a control issue. The controls for Resident Evil 5 just bugged me too much.
Yeah, there was something off about Resident Evil 5.
The game wasn't too bad, but the controls just really annoyed me, and I just couldn't be bothered with them. I did finish that one eventually, but I did lose interest.
Right. I can see what you mean with 5 because there was something really off about 5 in regards to how it handled.
Hmm.
I couldn't place it, but there was something little off with 5.
It was to do with the aim. It was the aiming was my issue. The fact that
Yeah.
you had your one side for your knife and your other side for your gun. But I preferred to select a weapon and then and use that, or if you're going to have a knife, and have it as a single button press, as opposed to having an aim button for one and then uh, an aim button for the other, which is normally your shoot button or whatever. It's just didn't quite didn't quite work out for me, especially for a third. You know, when you're used to doing third person shooters, it just didn't quite feel right at all.
Yeah, yeah. So with that in mind, you would say you preferred Raccoon City over how Resident Evil 6 came out.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could. I mean, it could just be mostly a nostalgia thing. Um, but I think it's nicely paced. The game, the game's much better paced. Um,
Mhm.
I found the environment was better, um, and it was just kind of nice to see, from being such a big fan of the earlier games, seeing that merge of the earlier titles just creeping in, and even like going around a corridor and spotting things like the gun shop that Leon ran into in Resident Evil 2 after escaping the zombies from that bus. Um, just things like that just always just made it feel so much better than I have with Resident Evil 6. This is nothing that's wowed me so much.
Okay, I could see that. It was something different at
Mm.
the very least, and
Yeah,
that helped it feel fresher than what RE6 gave, which was kind of an updated version of 5 in terms of the control scheme and
yeah. I mean,
setup.
the controls in 6 were much better than 5. 5 was just awkward. 6 is so much better in that respect.
Yeah. Okay. I could see that from that perspective.
Mm.
Obviously, like you said, this would probably lead to a debate, probably somewhere in the comment section over RE6 versus Raccoon City.
Yeah, if you have any issues, leave it in the comments.
We will be waiting. But yeah, Capcom views it as a decline in quality due to the outsourcing. Obviously, between Raccoon City in their view and DMC Devil May Cry in the general view.
Yeah,
I mean, I think I mentioned this before when we talked about DMC, but the DMC fan base, out of sheer protest of the new DMC, went ahead and bought the HD collection. And on Amazon.com, the HD collection of DMC, for at least for the US, is still outselling the current DMC. So not only is it really a decline in quality, but probably a backlash from obviously developers' attitude with how he was treating the fan base. And recently, the conference at the GDC is not doing the company any favors. If have you seen those pictures from their GDC conference?
uh, was it the Japanese GDC?
No, no, no. It's the Dante is, Dante isn't
Yeah, yeah. I
fiasco.
believe that was the Japanese GDC conference,
I don't. I.
as opposed to the one over here, over in America. I
Hmm.
believe that was the Japanese version of it.
Okay. I always thought there was only one GDC. That's why.
I did too. It surprised me when I saw those creep up
Wow. Okay.
because the GDC was quite a bit before those images came about.
No, no. Actually, the GDC was the one in San Francisco, March
Yeah,
25th through the
and that was
29th. The images were coming out around that time frame.
okay.
Yeah, I think it was around that week they came out. Yeah, so it was the one here in America. Your one in
Okay.
Europe is in August.
What do we have in August?
I think 19th through 21st is your GDC, the
Oh, I don't
European one in
know.
Germany.
Oh, yeah, that's what should we call it? Gamescom.
Yeah, they have it listed here as a what's it called? Game Developers Conference Europe. Their website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that kicks off in Germany, or the big one that's both a consumer show at the weekend and a developer and media show for the start is Gamescom.
Right. Okay. But yeah, you've seen that whole fiasco from Ninja Theory's conference at a few
I
weeks
did
ago.
see those. I did see those images. Yeah.
Yeah, I see. I don't even want to say it's so much a decline in quality, even though I'm of the opinion that it was a decline in quality because I don't like the direction DMC went with the new one. I mean, I was willing to defend it obviously beforehand because nobody ever played it. We never got the chance to let it, come out and let it come through and reviewed and the videos come out and gameplay come out. Before at the time people were ripping into it, I was like, okay, let's just wait until it comes out and then see what happens. Because for all we know, we're just gonna sit here with eggs on our faces and it comes out looking actually pretty good. And then when the game came out, I was like, okay, flood doors open. I can't defend this. And seeing them with those pictures, saying what Dante is, Dante isn't, almost as
Mm-hmm.
if insulting everyone. I almost want to say what happened with the quote unquote decline in quality was also more in terms of the PR the sector as well. I mean, it's obviously a decline in quality for the game, but at least Capcom was somewhat better at handling criticism when it came to things like this. Outside of Mega Man Legends 3 and blaming the fan base, that was their one huge slip. But in regards to saying, this is what Dante is and what Dante isn't, and trying to tell the fan base this is what it should be, that doesn't work. That never works. Especially when the fan base is already ticked off at you for changing Dante enough as it is. Now you're telling them what it is and isn't when Dante isn't yours.
I mean, we have, we discussed this before. I mean, a lot of the backlash came from the stateside as opposed to um, over here. I think overall in Europe it got quite very well received in general. Um, but the American audience didn't seem to take it quite the same way.
Well, review wise, DMC Devil May Cry actually did pretty well. I mean, I think it outscored the regular DMC titles by a little bit
Hmm.
on Metacritic. But that being said, the fan base just does not like it. And the problem with that is I can see the fan base's point of view on it. Because when you read some of the reviews on the new DMC Devil May Cry, they kind of overlook certain things that you shouldn't overlook. Like, they overlook the story. Some reviews don't even mention the story. And other reviews say that the story is, over the top and corny and hammy in a good way. But the issue is that the developers praise the story as one of the selling points of the game. And it was supposed to be taken seriously, and this is supposed to be this serious, story to make you feel about Dante's struggles, and Dante's supposed to be relatable with his issues with his brother, and the whole storyline with Mundus and everything. That to say that the story was over the top and hammy and corny in a good way, it overlooks the purpose of what the developer was trying to do with the story, and I can't see that being a good thing. I mean, if the developer intended for one thing and it turns out completely the opposite, how is that a plus in terms of the story? I mean,
Yeah, I personally couldn't comment on the story because I haven't actually got around to playing DMC. Uh,
I
but again, That's again something which a lot of people over here that I'm I'm connected with, uh, have said that they enjoyed the story on this, as opposed to what they have in the in the last couple of titles, at least for Devil May Cry.
see. I could kind of see that for DMC4 because DMC's 4 story was kind of. I think DMC4 was the weak link in that regard.
Yeah.
But that being said, to say it's better than DMC3 story, I don't know. I can't really buy that. I can't see that, to be honest. From my point of view, I've played DMC3. I beat it very recently. It's still fresh in my mind. And the new DMC Devil May Cry, I don't have the game. I haven't played it, but I sat through an entire Let's Play of it just to see the story on whether I would buy it or not. This is part of me looking up on whether I would actually take the risk on it. And I just didn't like the story route that they went with this new DMC. It just seems like they wanted to try to make it relatable by trying to make the world somewhat modern, but not making it this world, and doing the whole government conspiracy storyline with Mundus trying to, take over the world's government and pretty much unite the demon world and the human world together, it almost feels like. And it seems like they tried too hard to try to make it relatable that it lost itself partway through the story. And it just kind of, I don't know, it felt shaky the whole time. And never mind the dialogue. The dialogue's another thing to itself that's a love it or hate it type of thing. Some people will kind of like it, other people will kind of shirk it aside. But I just didn't like the story in the new DMC at all. I couldn't get into the plot line for it.
Okay. I mean, it's still something I want to give a go. I mean, when for what I've tried of the game, I enjoyed the control, the whole control thing on the game. So I'm quite willing to jump into it when I get around to buying it and giving it a bash. But right now it's not on my top list of things to do. I mean, the first thing I'm getting is Dead Island.
Oh
That's
yeah.
probably that's probably the next game I'm gonna be getting, and I'll probably end up spending a lot of time on that, like I did the previous one. Which, going back to that Operation Raccoon City thing, there were so many haters of Dead Island, and it's a game that I loved so much. And I have controversially said I prefer Dead Island to Far Cry 3. So,
Well, I see. I can easily see that with Dead Island compared to Far Cry 3. Because I don't know, the thing about Far Cry 3, it's good, but I don't think it's that utter example of perfection that everyone makes it out to be.
no, there was a lot of hype about the game, and I got it. Um, I played part way through the single player. I have not been like overly wowed by it at all.
Yeah.
Like I was kind of expecting to be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I got the same effect almost from Far Cry 3. It didn't, like you said, overly wow me. It looked great, but
Yeah,
it didn't blow me away. Whereas with Dead Island, it was just a blast.
yeah. There's always enemies around you, and
Hmm.
I think I personally prefer close quarters combat, melee combat and stuff, over shooting human enemies all the time.
Oh yeah, that I always found that to be the same for me, but it has to be done right. Like to the extent of the melee combat actually feels like melee combat and not just a
Yeah.
substitute for a gun, that type of thing. Like it's the same mechanics
it's,
and everything, but it's close range. That type of.
it's not like it's not like that video I showed you not so long ago with that new Walking Dead game.
Oh man. Oh,
Yeah,
why?
that was hilarious, wasn't it?
And they tried to say that, oh, this was beta footage of a game that wasn't meant to come out. And guess what? It came out
It
almost
was
exactly like that.
yeah, and it
Ugh.
did and it didn't do too badly.
That actually pisses me off a little bit.
But it's because it's a brand product.
Yeah,
Because of the way that it was fully marketed, not on they barely showed any gameplay. It was fully marketed on the brand,
yeah, but
and people bought into it.
but
I don't buy into things if I don't know what I'm exactly going to be getting. I don't buy into things that easy.
yeah, but that's what I mean. That disappoints me in regards to it actually selling well. I mean, there are
Yeah,
games out there that I don't want to use the term deserve, but they do deserve to sell way better than they
yeah.
do. And you realize, wait, where's some of the money going to? And you see games like The Walking Dead Survival Instinct.
Well,
And
you know what it'd be. It'd be the husbands, wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, mums, dads, whatever. Anyone who doesn't play games buying it for a member of their family that does buy games because they know the title, they know the brand of the title, and they're like, yeah,
Y-
we'll get that. I'll surprise them with
Yeah, but for it to be third on,
yeah,
in the top three out of 10 games sold, I mean I don't that actually disappointed me to see that. And I'm not
yeah,
usually disappointed at a game's success, but if a game is this bad, you can't help but be disappointed at a game being successful.
yeah.
Because then you look at it and go, how many other games that are actually good that aren't selling as
Didn't.
well as this? Yeah. And it's just, you see this discrepancy, and it's disappointing to see that from a gaming perspective and from the perspective of the gamers, who they want these better products, they want these new products, they want something that's bigger and better, but they're not getting it because the other gamers are pouring money into, to put it bluntly, the crap.
Yeah.
And ah, it's stuff like that that bothers me in terms of the gaming industry. That they see is the sales. They don't see the quality. They see the sales.
Hmm.
I'm like, for a good example with Square Enix with their recent issues. They look at the Metacritic scores. I believe you told me, and they base their sales expectations off of the Metacritic scores.
Yeah.
And
And there was the issue that came out, was it last week, because of that?
I think
And
it may have been.
they said that the sales were underperformed for Western developed titles.
Yeah, and you look at the sales of Hitman Absolution at I think 3.4 million or so. Tomb Raider sold 3.6 million, the most sales ever in that franchise, and I think an opening week.
Yeah,
3.6 million in the Tomb
it
Raider
was
franchise.
it was an absolutely huge launch. Yet the sales were underwhelming for over the expectations.
Right, and you hear that and it's ridiculous. And Sleeping
Yeah,
Dogs underperformed, and that is a niche title, as
yeah.
niche can be. It was originally True Crime Streets of Hong Kong, resurrected by Eidos, brought over to Square Enix, and released as Sleeping Dogs.
That's
And
actually a title which I've got to get around to playing. I have got it on my console to play.
yes, that Sleeping Dogs is a fantastic title. It deserved every little bit of success and praise that it got. It is a fantastic sandbox title. And it sold 1.2 million, I believe. And for a niche title with almost no
That's
advertisement,
yeah.
it underperformed.
Because reviewers scored it well, so
Right.
therefore they did some wacky calculation and said, so if this got this score, then it must sell this number of units.
Right. And I've read that the numbers that they were expecting were somewhere along the lines of Tomb Raider they expected 5 to 6 million.
Yeah, and the expected figures for Tomb Raider were just completely out of this world.
Yeah. No game sells that. Resident Evil 6 couldn't even sell that.
You got to kind of look into the current market, and what it's like. So many countries at the moment are either recession or coming out of recession or whatever. Everyone's a bit more hard pinched. So they're not. The market's kind of died down, a heck of a lot to what it was a few years back.
Mhm.
And people aren't buying every game that comes out. I'm not buying every game that comes out like I used to.
Yeah.
Um, I uh, I'm debating which and whether I'll be buying straight into the new console cycle when they come out, which would be the first time for me because every other time I've just jumped straight in there.
Right. I'm in the same boat with the next gen. The next gen looks great. At first I wasn't sold on it. Then the PlayStation 4 presentation happened, and
Hmm.
that blew me away. And now I'm looking at the next gen kind of in the same extent of, do I want to jump into it? with everything that's going on, and as you said, money and different things.
Maybe I'll just buy a 3DS XL.
They got the Animal Crossing.
I hear that's going to do well this year.
Nintendo handheld does well. Meanwhile, the sky remains blue in the morning. But it's just so weird to hear that from Square Enix and just blame
Yeah.
Eidos for poor sales figures. And I almost feel bad for Eidos because you can tell they put all that work and effort into Tomb Raider and Hitman and Sleeping Dogs to make them work. And they, for all intents and purposes, they did work.
But I think for Square Enix is um unlike with Nintendo, their Japanese division have taken too many risks with changes, and they've taken too many risks with their current IPs. Instead of making subtle changes and stuff, they've made tried to make some big changes, especially things like Final Fantasy 13 series and stuff like that. That's just doesn't appeal to the general fan base of Final Fantasy that grew up with the series and stuff.
Mm-hmm. But
It's I don't know. I think the quality of their Western titles has been very good. I've enjoyed Hitman. I've enjoyed Tomb Raider. I haven't yet played Sleeping Dogs, but I'm pretty sure I'll like that too.
yeah, the Sleeping Dogs. I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy that as well. But I would almost say the thing with Square Enix is with as you said, the risks. With Final Fantasy being the franchise that it is, where no universe is the same. I,
Yeah,
I guess you can say they're more entitled to take risks.
yeah.
But the problem is
Actually, the thing they don't take risks on is the games which look good. They don't take risks to release them in the
yeah,
West.
right? Final Fantasy Type
or,
Zero,
or,
brilliant
or they
game, never released in
or they
America, Europe.
or they take a long time to release something that does look fantastic.
Right, and they take a
That's
while
it's that.
to. Yeah, oh my! I knew that was gonna come. I knew that was gonna come in. I mean, they
Yeah,
gave us a date now. I mean, they didn't give us a date, but they have a date now for when they're gonna announce more details.
yeah.
So, meaning they announced the date where they're gonna say to wait for more details to announce another date.
Mm.
But with Final Fantasy, it see the thing is, like I said, with Final Fantasy, it's this franchise with how it's structured, with no universe being the same. Obviously, Final Fantasy One is not the same as two, not the same as three, etc. That they could take risks.
Although the first few were so close to a similar story, it was unreal.
Yeah,
Things like it was always the four warriors of light with the crystals, etc., etc.
right.
Um,
But the universe was always different,
yeah, yeah,
and they could take risks. Like for instance, during the FF 7, 8, and 9 era, we got Final Fantasy Tactics.
yeah,
Tactics was a good risk. I mean, Tactics proved to be very popular, especially with the PlayStation 1 and the modding community as well for Tactics. And then, of course, we got War of the Lions on the PSP and Tactics Advance on the Game Boy Advance. But then they take the risks that didn't pan out so well, like Final Fantasy 13 in terms of a general feedback side, and they say it sold well. And it doesn't matter if it sold well the first time, but if you push it again, it's not going to sell so well because they didn't like it as much the first time it sold, but they didn't like it as much. And then you push it again with Final Fantasy 13 too, and even if you did improve everything that people said they wanted improved, they aren't going to
mm,
go for it a second time, as evidenced by Final Fantasy 13 2 legitimately underperforming.
yeah.
That underperformed for a Final Fantasy title. And
No, I was really surprised when they said they were gonna when they announced a 13.3. I thought as with Final Fantasy 10, they'll do the spin off and that'll be it. But
right,
no.
that that kind of bugged me when I saw the to be continued at the end of 13 too. And I was like, you're not going to go on with this, are you? And sure enough, they went on with it. And it was kind of, why would you excuse me, why would you go on with this risk that it worked the first time, but people didn't really like it, and then say that there was demand for a second, and then you make the second with the intention of making the third. So
Yeah.
it just didn't really add up in that regard. To me, it really didn't add up to why would you continue driving in the risk. And now Iados is bearing the brunt of, the bad sales figures, with them having to try to pull Final Fantasy slack with Hitman and Tomb Raider and Sleeping Dogs. So I really don't know what's going on with Square Enix with that. Their
Yeah,
expectations are
yeah,
just through the roof.
because they even stuck Deus Ex under that wing as well, didn't they?
I believe so, yeah.
Which again was another good seller and another very good game.
Yeah. And let me guess, that underperformed too, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, and now they're doing the Wii U version of what's it called?
Deus Ex, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. They've given it a special name. It's not Deus Ex U.
Yeah.
It's got a unique name.
Yeah.
Um, they basically kind of patched a few things with things like the bosses and because people had some issues with some of the bosses or whatever. They sorted those out for the game. I think they've added a tiny bit of extra content. I mean, you can't just go and straight port a game this far off and people be happy with it and want to buy it. But
Yeah. I mean, it gives them something to buy for the Wii U, and
yeah,
it comes with the Missing Link DLC and the other, I believe, DLC items. So, it being priced at $60 for almost a 2-year-old game with all the improvements and the Missing Link kind of makes up for it. But, you also can't help but wonder if Square Enix is pushing it with that price point as well.
yeah, yeah, maybe. But then, I mean, that's RRP. I don't know how your stores normally fare with it, but when we have things at RRP that kind of price, they're normally not anywhere near that price in the stores, the online stores especially.
Mm-hmm.
We usually have at least £10 or so knocked off the RRP prices.
Right. At least, something kind of, a price cut of some kind, even if it is
Mm,
all improved and
yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, actually, talking about delayed things, we are finally getting One Piece coming over here.
Nice. Are you getting the DVDs from the start of One Piece?
Yes. So basically, they're coming in four collections. I did put a post up on the blog actually. Um, they're coming in four staggered releases. Uh, you have you have the collection one, collection two, collection three, collection four. I think they're going out between May and I think the last one comes out November.
Okay.
Just trying to see what the dates and which episodes are covered at which times. Right, so we have collection one, which will contain episodes 1 to 26, which releases on May 27th in Europe, because you guys already have all of this. Collection 2, which is episodes 27 to 53 on July 1st. And then there's this massive gap between July and September, which will be collection 3, which is episodes 54 to 78. And then collection 4 will be episodes 79 to 103 on November 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only coming out on DVD. There's not a Blu-ray version. I think the guys, Manga UK, who will be publishing over here, they did kind of ask around, and they're having to be a bit careful as to what they put onto Blu-ray, and because the cost of producing Blu-ray is so much more than they are for DVD. So I guess when you got these massive bulk sets, it's probably easier in some respects to put them into uh, DVD format.
Right, right.
Um, and because it also means that they can offer them at a lower price point when they're sold in stores, which would then obviously entice people to actually buy them. Otherwise, they'll be spending a fortune on producing the Blu-ray, especially for a box set, and then having to reflect that cost in the sales price, and people just won't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah. Then it just shoots itself in the foot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually happy that it's coming out, because I've never actually watched One Piece. My kind of first experience with One Piece was playing One Piece Pirate Warriors. And I've said before, I don't really read any manga or anything like that. So it'd be quite nice for me to look into the series. A friend of mine did offer to let me watch it, but it was all in German while I was in Austria, and I wasn't going to be doing that. Wouldn't make any sense to me. So yeah, it's nice that we're actually finally getting this released. I mean, it's a bit like we're still kind of backlogged in getting releases of Dragon Ball Z as series. I can't remember what we're on. I think we're on season 6 or something, or Orange Box 6
Okay.
out of 9. So
Yeah,
a little way to go.
yeah, you're catching up, but it's still a little behind.
Mm.
It's
But
hmm?
but it's nice to kind of finally be able to get access to some of these titles which we previously weren't, because you get them through Funimation, who churn them out pretty quickly from after they've been out in Japan. It probably feels slow, but it's a lot quicker than they come over here.
Yeah, it's more. It's definitely probably a lot quicker than they come over there. But for us, we're
Yeah,
still kind of behind in that regard.
yeah,
Like right now, we're on season 4, I believe. Voyage 5 is the name of it. That comes out in May,
right,
and that is episodes numbered, I believe, 257. I want to
right.
say. Oh, 253 to 263. There we go. I popped it up right now. Yeah, that comes out May 14th, and that's episodes 253 to 263 on One Piece on the DVD, and I believe, um, no, it doesn't have a Blu-ray release. Okay, so just the DVD releases of One Piece. We're on 253 to 263,
So,
and
so our collection will only go up to 103. So I guess this is all basically one season that we're getting, just split into 4 collections.
I actually think it's about 4 seasons.
Right. Okay.
I think you're actually getting about 4 seasons of One Piece,
Right.
or at least 4 arcs worth.
They do. I mean, the amount of episodes per collection is a reasonable amount. 26 episodes roughly. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a fair amount.
Right. And meanwhile, with One Piece, it's been airing on the Viz, PlayStation 3 and 360 anime channel, Neon Alley, and it's aired from the beginning. So it's kind of still in the early episodes, like episode, I want to say in the 40s now, 40s or 50s.
Right.
So it's still early on since they premiere an episode every week. And with recent Toonami news in America, One Piece will be added to the Toonami lineup, also starting in, I want to say, May as well in the future. So when that gets added to Toonami, it's going to start at episode 207 instead of, starting from episode 1.
Mm.
Trying to start, I guess, as close as they could to where they last got One Piece for the Toonami run a few years back.
Hmm.
So they got it as close as they could get to that, but not in the middle of an arc.
Right.
So from episode 207, I believe, onward, they're gonna start airing One Piece here as well. So we are a fair bit ahead of the UK in terms of the releases. I don't know why does it take UK so long to get the releases?
Um. So the thing is, I mean, you've got your big company, Funimation, who tend to deal with a lot of it. Um, we although we've kind of had companies releasing anime over here, I don't think anyone's really done it so strongly over the last few years. Well, for a while, and in the last couple of years, Manga UK have been quite strong in pushing out as many uh, anime titles as they can. So a lot of it's now being done through one central route. I think that there's a few that do get released on the outsides for other companies, but uh, we've pretty much got one publisher, and they have to kind of go through Japan for authorization for, and it's not just manga titles. It's um, things like Toei and animation and stuff like that. But they have to go through Japan for the authorization, and then get it released over here. So we're kind of trying to catch up. I think now that they've hit social media and they're actually getting some feedback from fans, they're now starting to bring work on and bring in a lot more popular titles over this way.
Okay.
You guys pretty much had that. I mean, in France in France they've got it very well, got a very well established Japanese anime fan base, and they have companies that focus on that. But obviously, they only publish them in French or maybe possibly European languages, but not in English. So we would never get them.
Okay. So it's kind of a mix of having to translate it all in, different
Yeah, and
languages.
I think overall we weren't in the UK seen to have a big anime scene. So it was so niche that many didn't bother. If no one's going to buy it, what's the point?
Right.
Um, and the problem with DVD is we can't always import DVD because of some region restrictions. Some of our DVD players are region free, but even region free sometimes have issues with like your region one DVDs. I mean, I've had region one DVDs on a region free player, and I've got no color, or I've got funny audio or something, and it's um,
Yeah, it's a little off, so to
yeah,
speak.
yeah. So I can't, so I always try to avoid importing. But obviously, when you got Blu-ray now, we can import straight from the States, and there's not a problem. But when it comes to some of the box sets, they only come on DVD, so you kind of don't want to take that risk, or it's too expensive to import them because shipping fees are damn expensive nowadays. But yeah, so we've now got we've got a team in the UK. We've got Manga UK who do a great. I think they do a great job with getting collecting fan feedback and trying to release titles, um, or even re-releasing titles that we once that we want but haven't had the opportunity to receive. And now us, I think with the expansion of and popularity of Comic Cons and things like that, our anime scene has actually grown more popular, or visibly grown more popular, even though there may have been a few people hiding, under blankets or whatever before. They're now kind of all creeping out of the woodwork, and it's all exposed. So yeah, so the fan base is visibly bigger. Demand is physically bigger.
Okay.
I mean, they tweeted earlier this week about getting this standalone complex on Blu-ray, whether or not there'll be people will be interested. So basically, the general process will be who would be interested in buying. The pitch was who would be interested in buying standalone complex. It'll have to come in 4 parts, so 2 parts per season. So standalone complex 1, 2 parts, standalone complex 2, 2 parts, on Blu-ray at £35 a go. Obviously, they'll be kind of staggered in a similar way to the One Piece are, where you'll have a release maybe in May, a release in July, etc., etc. which £35 at a time doesn't seem too much. But when you think about it overall, as was pointed out, you're paying £140 for uh, this collection, which costs you maybe £20 each on DVD.
Wow, that actually sounds a bit expensive.
Yeah, because you could buy the whole. I mean, I bought the whole box sets for the standalone complex, one of my favorite anime series.
Hmm.
Um,
I have the box set as well here.
I got, I bought the box set for one, I bought the box set for two, and I think they cost me £35, but that was for a whole collection as opposed to one box set split between two.
Yeah.
Um, so £140, that's about $215.
Yeah, that's pretty steep in regards to pricing. Although pricing here is up and down when it comes to anime.
Yeah,
Like to give you
it is over here.
yeah, like to give you a good example, Dragon Ball Z Kai, the final season of Dragon Ball Z Kai on Amazon, with the whole finale with the Cell games and everything. It's
Hmm.
half the length of every other season, obviously, because
Right.
it's really just the Cell games. But it's $51.
Ouch.
Now, every other season is around $20 to $30. To give you another example of how out of whack our pricing can be, the Soul Eater anime complete series is on Blu-ray. It's
Hmm.
a 51 or 52 episode anime, I believe, and it's only 20 something dollars. $28. There we go. $28 for 51 episodes on Blu-ray.
So as a comparison, that's
Yeah, it varies a lot in terms of, what does the company want to charge for it and what's the pricing. Black Lagoon has a two season set. Black Lagoon seasons 1 and 2 for
mhm.
$28. And I do believe I forgot. I think it's maybe another 20 something episodes. I believe
Right.
26 episodes. Because I can't remember if it's like 13 and 13, each season. But I want to say that it is. So it's around $28, so that's about $1 per episode. While something like Soul Eater is 51 episodes at also $28. And Dragon Ball Z Kai's final season, which is about 13 episodes, is $50. Just to give you an idea of how our prices just can go out of whack depending on what they want to charge for it and what it's actually
Yeah.
worth.
We suffer exactly the same thing over here. Some things are ridiculously priced. And another thing I don't do, although the only time I did was with Zone of the Enders because I there wasn't going to be a box set. I don't know if we actually ever got a box set, but I bought them in parts. One thing I never do with anime is buy them in parts because I think they normally when a new release comes out, it's about £20 per part, or eventually you can get the box set at £20 for the box set. If you're if you're patient to wait until the all the parts are out and then buy it, you could pay maybe £20 to £30 for a box set as opposed to £20 per part.
I don't know. The pricing with anime needs to have some sort of, I guess, standard in general.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, movies in general have quite a standard pricing.
Yeah.
And they're usually uh, you could pretty much know if it's a big blockbuster title, you could pretty much know what price it'll roughly be when it'll be released. Um, and or if it's just a straight to DVD title, it'll be a little bit less, um, you know, maybe 30% less than what it is what a full budget title would have been. But yeah, with the anime, it's just all over the shop.
Yeah. It's really all over the place with the pricing. And as you said, movies have a standard, kind of a set pricing typically.
Mm.
Like movies on demand are like 4.99. Netflix has it at its subscription rate.
Hmm.
PlayStation Network movies, they're 14.99 if you opt to watch it before the DVD release. But
Right.
after the DVD release, it drops to like 3.99.
Okay.
That type of it has that type of pricing scale to it that applies to all movies, with the only
Yeah.
exception being imported movies, like something from the like something shown from the Sundance Film Festival, that is from
Right.
out of country,
So it's a
will
kind of, or, yeah, or kind of indie type movies or whatever.
right.
Those things which are a little bit more unique.
Mm-hmm. Or something where what's it called? It like a martial arts movie that may have come from out of country, like something made by Mandarin Films.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those would be like 6.95 or something in order to, I guess, cover the cost of the importation.
See, that sounds very cheap.
Yeah, it kind of is when you take into consideration everything about it.
What price do your new DVDs come in at? For blockbuster movies on average?
DVDs,
Yeah.
um, around $20, I believe.
Okay.
It's around $20 for our new DVDs.
Okay.
Like recently, what we've been doing here is we've been doing DVD and Blu-ray double packs more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
Yeah,
Um,
and those seem to
Doubles or
vary.
triples or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and those start to vary in price. They can be anywhere from 20, depending, upwards of maybe 50 if you're not careful.
Right.
Like the Avengers at one point was like $45 for I think it was the 4 pack, which was a Blu-ray, a 3D Blu-ray, a DVD, and a digital copy
Right.
with the soundtrack download. And that was upwards of $40 at a time.
It baffles me as to why people actually want that.
Mm, Well, some people like the collector's obviously stuff. Other people
Yeah.
would take the double pack and are like, I can give this to someone who likes the 3D, who has a 3D TV. I
Yeah,
could,
but you
keep
if you
this
only if
here.
but you only get one. The majority of you only get one case, and it's all shoved into this one case packaging. So you have to give someone a DVD, and maybe have to get yourself a little slipcase or something for to pass that on if you wanted to.
Yeah, it is really shoved into like one case, but the case is kind of like it opens up like a book, so there's one disc on the left, one disc on the right.
Yeah,
But the thing
yeah,
is, it's done in only two spools, so it's two discs shoved on one side, two discs shoved on another side.
yeah, yeah. But again, I won. I'm a bit funny. I like to have everything in the pack all the time. So
Hmm.
if something was missing, I would be a bit funny about that.
Yeah,
So I wouldn't want to give one of the copies away.
yeah, I
And if
get
I
you.
had it on a high definition Blu-ray, I wouldn't ever be wanting to watch the DVD.
W- Well, my only argument on that is some people, in regards to the movies, like they could have it at home on Blu-ray, but let's say their laptop doesn't have a Blu-ray player, like I don't think
Yeah,
mine does. You got the DVD version, and so you can just pop in the DVD and watch it from there. Although,
but
granted, Windows 8 is making that harder to do, but
yeah, but in a lot of these packs, you get the digital version, which is usually shown in high definition anyway. So you might as well
mm, that depends,
you might as well
because
get that.
that depends because the Avengers digital copy is standard def.
Right.
You know, I,
But you say standard def, but it's usually a better quality than it is the DVD quality.
I wouldn't know for sure on that one. But I think that's also why with anime they release it on both DVD and Blu-ray. In case someone has a non-Blu-ray compatible device.
Yeah.
They can just cover all their bases and just use the DVD. Since obviously Blu-ray hasn't entirely taken over DVD just yet. It's getting
Hmm.
there, but it hasn't fully eclipsed it. It's just one of those things where they cover for all their bases, which is also probably why a lot of anime isn't released in Blu-ray just yet. They don't want to risk, falling into, if they can only do one or the other, they'll just take the DVD releases.
Yeah,
But if the Blu-ray version allows them to do something that they couldn't do normally, like in the case of a Yu Yu Hakusho, which is re-release it, in its entirety, un in an HD format, then they'll take the risk and go to Blu-ray while having the old DVD releases probably restocked or something. I think that's the one thing that a lot of anime companies try to do. Cover all their bases, but if they can only do one, they'll go for the one that seems more appealing in terms of
yeah,
sales. I mean, I don't even think One Piece has a Blu-ray release here yet in terms of the full series. I think One Piece has been a DVD thing in America.
yeah. And that's possibly one reason why. Because if they wanted to release it over here on a Blu-ray, it would have to have the full, you know, full works being done.
Hmm.
I don't even think it's been released on Blu-ray in Japan, so they can only authorize things to be done if it's been done in Japan anyway. They can't do stuff that Japan hasn't done. So therefore, when it came to the Blu-ray, then when they said about the fact that they had to split it between the box sets, they Japan did it that way. They're not allowed to do it another way on the Blu-ray.
Right.
So they're kind of restricted, so they're kind of bound to whatever's happened in Japan.
Whatever licensing, whatever agreements they get through, and
Yeah,
everything. It's a pretty
yeah,
interesting way to look at it in terms of especially how they can license certain things. Like
yeah,
obviously Neon Alley is run by Viz and they have the licenses obviously to everything that Viz wants to put up. It's just a matter of when and how, in what manner they want
yeah,
to put these anime up on Neon Alley. And then of course other companies cross licensing with them to put their anime up on their front as well. But yeah, it, it's a pretty, I don't want to say weird, but it's an odd concept of how things differ in terms of how anime is produced in different countries, or at least
yeah.
brought over. Like obviously in Europe they have to take into account the different languages, English, French, Italian, German, in terms of subtitles.
That is one of the big problems with with Europe is you have to kind of cater if you're going to release here, you have to cater for all, or at least the majority of the main spoken languages.
Hmm. Whereas,
It usually has to be German, French, and I think Spanish.
yeah, I would assume Spanish.
I know German and French always, but I'm pretty sure it was Spanish.
Yeah, and Italian I
Um,
believe as well.
I don't think Italian is usually deemed as a main one, but I think many do cater for the
Okay.
Italian languages. As far as I'm aware, Italian isn't defined as a main language.
Okay.
I mean, you got God knows how many Eastern European languages as well, but again, they're not deemed as prime languages in Europe.
Yeah, that makes sense in regards to taking the languages into account. Although I thought Italian would be considered a prime language.
As
But
far as I'm aware, no. I might be wrong, but yeah, as far
okay.
as I'm aware, no.
Okay. In the American releases, a lot of the things they take into account are just mainly English, obviously. And
Hmm.
what Funimation used to do when they were releasing the DBZ DVDs was they would have subtitles for their dub, right?
Hmm.
And then they would have a second subtitle track
Yeah.
for direct translation.
Okay.
So they would have, like, for instance, obviously in the English dub of the original DBZ, they called Goku Goku, but his real name is Son Goku. And Funimation had two subtitle tracks that took that into account, where
Right.
one would be a direct line for line dub subtitle transcription, with another subtitle track being a line for line translation subtitle track. So if you wanted to hear Funimation's dub, or read their dub subtitle selection 1. If you wanted the
Yeah.
direct 100% accurate translation, subtitle track 2. No, which I thought was pretty cool that they did that. Obviously, they didn't have to do that, but everyone at this point already kind of knew that DBZ had a lot of liberties taken with the dub. So Funimation kind of embraced it and went ahead and did 2 subtitle tracks in the original DBZ DVD releases.
Yeah.
But it's obviously here they don't take into account very many languages. It's English, sometimes direct translation, but I don't think that's needed much anymore. And I think that's also kind of a Funimation special thing they did for DBZ fans. And Spanish they take into account most of the time.
I was going to say I would have thought Spanish because you've got a lot of like the Spaniards, the Spanish languages from Mexico or whatever,
Yeah, and
and southern
Hispanic.
continent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they take into account Spanish most of the time, and sometimes a scattering of European languages, but that's rare. It's English and
Yeah.
Spanish mostly though,
Yeah.
and once those 2 are done, that's their subtitle track.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, it's an interesting look to see how much they actually do have to take into account when they bring things over to Europe. But it
Hmm.
still kind of sucks that it takes so long to bring something over to Europe, like Dragon Ball Z, having been long done here,
Yeah.
brought over.
But I mean, there's even things like the Batman animated series and stuff like that. We got only part of the releases over here, so I think we only had the first two box sets released over here,
Yeah,
and the other ones I had to import because we never had release of them. I had to buy the Superman ones as an import because we never had releases over here. Or maybe would have like a couple of episodes which maybe have made up one season, but I wanted the whole lot, so I had to import them. And there's a lot of DC animated films which I want and have wanted, and I've either bought or I've got wanting to buy from having to import them from the States because we don't get release of those, which kind of sucks.
yeah, I got what you mean. Well, until then, I guess whenever they release Blu-rays for certain anime that you want, there's always the option to import. But that also kind of has a
Yeah,
backlash effect for your side because then that means you're not supporting Manga Entertainment UK.
yeah. I mean, when I do buy from manga, a lot of the time I like to go to when I go to MCM Expo or whatever. They usually have a stall there, and they're usually selling at pretty good prices, like usually under the retail prices.
Right.
So, and going in there, just chatting with the guys, and having a nosy at the selections of stuff that they've got. It's where and sometimes getting recommendations from them as well. It's like things that I've not even heard of or considered. I just say to them, I fancy watching something with vampires or a new mech style anime or just something completely off the wall, and then they'll give me some recommendations. Bit like they recommended Eden of the East, which I had only kind of vaguely heard of but never really looked into, and that was an absolutely fantastic series of first off a series of episodes and then 2 films. The whole thing was just so well done. Another one of my now favorites. Um, Another one they recommended was Zammed, and I got the first part. I wish I bought the second part at the time, because I can't ever find the second part or can't find it at a good price.
Yeah, I get you. I've seen Zammed on the PlayStation Store before.
Oh, it's not on our PlayStation Store.
Really?
Yeah,
Hmm. I,
but then again, it could be down to obviously licensing because there is an American license for it. There may not be a UK license for it to be on a digital store over here.
yeah, yeah, possible. because if I'm not mistaken, it was a PlayStation Network almost exclusive anime for its time.
Right.
So it may have actually gotten just a North American release on that front.
Mm. I mean, I can't say I've actually looked deeply to not see it, but I haven't seen it when I've been nosing.
Yeah, it shows up on the PlayStation Network for me, so I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, it's probably like you said, licensing.
Yeah. And licensing is the bane of all bad things.
Right, because I believe Sony co-developed Zammed, which is why I was kind of shocked that it didn't show up on your end.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't seen it, but I'm gonna have to have a look when I switch it on tomorrow.
All right. It's another manga entertainment anime
Mm.
on your end, so that might also have a bit to do with it. Because
Yeah.
here it's Sentai Filmworks,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
so it might again licensing being the bane of existence.
Well, I'm really hoping that because they didn't have it last time I went to MCM, but I'm really hoping that they have a copy of it uh, uh, this May when they run the MCM.
Okay.
I might actually tweet them beforehand to see if they can get a copy set aside. As this year I might be there helping out as opposed to just be wandering.
Right.
So I might be helping the guys at Tecmo
Okay, that's cool.
and playing Dynasty Warriors 8.
Oh, you lucky. I'm stuck here while you get to have fun and do all that. It's okay.
I'll take pictures. It's fine.
You and Michelle are no better. You know that, right?
Actually, Michelle's going there too.
You know what? I'm done with this. I'm done. Michelle played the Japanese version.
Yeah.
uh,
Evil.
I'll be patient. We'll try to be patient. Not like I got a choice.
Oh, I was going to say it's not that long, but it is. Wow.
A bit. It's July, so
Yeah, it's a good few months.
hmm a good few months, and it gives me
But
time to. Hmm?
it's a good thing because it's there's nothing else really during most summers, so
Yeah, yeah. Unless E3 comes up with some surprises, and even then, that'd only give them a month to release them. So
yeah.
yeah. All right. So it seems like we covered pretty much everything we wanted to in regards to today's discussions. Is there anything else you want to add before we start signing off?
Uh, Not really. I can't think of anything.
Hmm. All right. I'm just gonna go ahead and give a shout out and a plug to the Neon Alley channel then. Neon Alley Viz's 24/7 anime channel service for PlayStation 3 and the 360 are debuting three more anime starting Friday, so tomorrow. The day I should say today's Thursday when we're recording this. So tomorrow, Friday the 19th, they're debuting Excel World, Fate Zero, and High School of the Dead on the Neon Alley channel Friday nights. And on Saturdays, of course, they'll be airing One Piece and Naruto Shippuden. And they'll be adding Bleach episodes 1 and 2 back to the lineup. So Bleach will also be getting a rerun through Neon Alley. So Neon Alley's gotten some pretty good acquisitions again to pump up interest in a 24/7 anime dubbed, uncut channel. So I just wanted to give a shout out and a plug for Neon Alley for what it is and how it's developing and taking shape so far. I'm subscribed to Neon Alley and I've been enjoying it every week so far. You
Curse you, Americans.
know. I like Neon Alley. This is ours.
I mean, we get Crunchyroll,
Yeah.
um, but that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's mostly illegal methods, and I don't tend to go that route.
Right. I understand what you mean. I think we have Crunchyroll and Hulu here as well. With their anime side, their anime, their anime focused channels as well.
Yeah.
But for Neon Alley, it's pretty much just in the entire, you could say Viz lineup, since this is Viz's anime channel.
Okay.
So it's a lot of what Viz has in their licensing that they give to Neon Alley that they just put up on their Neon Alley channel for PlayStation 3 and 360. $6.99 a month as a subscription fee. So it is kind of like you're paying for a channel, but it's always there for you to just pop on and watch. They have Naruto.
As much as you want as well. Yeah.
Right. And it runs like a channel, so it actually has a schedule up on their website every day for you to keep track of when, certain shows are on. Like they have Nura, Rise of the Yokai Clan, Naruto, Naruto Shippuden, One Piece, Berserk, Tiger and Bunny, Blue Exorcist, Inuyasha, The Final Act, Lagrange, and now they're adding Axel World, Fate Zero, and High School of the Dead, all in their programming. So it's
That's all right. I don't care. I'm going to watch my Sky Disney. I'll sit here and watch Dumbo.
You were making fun of you. Okay, you were making fun of me for Dynasty Warriors 8. Now we're even.
Although I do secretly love Sky Disney.
It's not so secret now, is it?
Shh. Right, whoever's listening to this.
This is gonna get cut in the editing, isn't it? All right, but I just wanted to give that shout out to Neon Alley and also to the Toonami lineup, and how that's also taking shape with its new setup. I think new format coming next week on the 27th with a new Tom and IGPX returning to the Toonami lineup, and then One Piece coming next month to the Toonami lineup, which will put Toonami as the one programming block to have the big three back to back to back, Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece all together in a lineup, along with their other products like Soul Eater and the new Thundercats and different things that pretty much made Toonami what it was, a nice collaboration of American animation and introducing Japanese anime to new viewers, to open up their eyes to see new shows like Dead Man Wonderland and other shows of that kind that were shown previously, along with Casher and Sins and now Soul Eater. So I just wanted to give a shout out to those two. We don't seem to talk enough about anime on the podcast, so I figured this was I figured this was a good time to, throw it in there as part of our podcast.
Well, if I'm always looking for good suggestions for anime to watch, so if anyone has suggestions, they can always comment us or tweet us or whatever through our usual channels.
Right. If any of you want to leave a comment in the comment section below on our YouTube channel. If you want to reach us, we are reachable at Tumblr, gamers@tumblr.com. We're reachable on Twitter at GAMRS, We Are Gamers. And we are reachable at facebook.com/We Are Gamers. All of the links to our channels will be in the YouTube video description when this video goes up on YouTube. So with that, just want to say this is Lawrence of the We Are Gamers podcast signing off.
Take care.
Take care, everybody, and happy gaming.